Danny, we made oil.
We did make oil. Tasty oil.
This is a story 5 years in the making. One of total inexperience and romantic rose-tinted ideals. But also one of hard work, determination, resilience, and one hell of a learning curve that has all paid off in the end. This is how we rescued our abandoned, unloved, overgrown olive grove and brought the destroyed trees back into production. Anyone who has been following us for a while will know what a disaster story these olive trees have been. If you've ever naively tasted an olive directly from the tree, then you'll understand the instant regret that comes afterwards as your mouth is flooded with a bitterness that's hard to get rid of. That feels a bit like a metaphor, really, of our experience of buying this old homestead and olive grove when we discovered the real hidden story of our gorgeous new finca. Believed by the locals to be at least 300 years old, this beautiful, idyllic piece of land, nestled away at the end of a track at the top of a mountain, was terraced by hand using traditional stone wall building methods. Using nothing but hand tools and donkeys for centuries, local farmers cultivated big, healthy, bountiful olive trees on this harsh terrain. Then, about 9 or 10 years ago, a land agent bought this piece of land and chopped down all 200 ancient trees. They left the unwanted branches just scattered around the land and sold the thick tree trunks for firewood. Honestly, such a travesty. My heart just aches to imagine the sight of all of those beautiful old olive trees actually being felled. Then, about 3 or 4 years later, in strolled 2 Brits. We had already been living our city life together in Barcelona for several years, and now we wanted to realise our lifelong dream of moving to the countryside and living a slower, more conscious life together. And now we're just going to drive to our new home.
Yeah. Landowners in Catalonia.
Woo! Obviously, having never owned an olive grove before, we weren't really sure what we were looking for. During the June and July viewings, we saw small olives forming on the ends of the branches across the 12 acres of land at this property, much like the others that we'd viewed elsewhere. And naively, we presumed that that meant everything was okay. But it was far from okay.
So where would you like to sleep tonight?
Do we want to sleep next to the rats? Next to the snake bed? Or in the middle of the wilderness? I don't know. In the car?
After purchasing the land and giddy with excitement, we kitted ourselves out with some camping gear, set up camp, and began exploring the landscape more thoroughly.
Cheers to our first night on the land.
We navigated the terraced stone bancals, ready to get stuck right into clearing the overgrown land and pruning the trees. We spoke to our new neighbours and other local farmers. We clambered over huge gnarly branches. And then we began to get that bitter taste in our mouths as we started to discover the true history of our trees.
What we did find out recently, that was a little bit annoying. So the previous owner wasn't really like the family owner. He seemed to have been an agent that bought the land and then sold it on. And we found out recently that this guy came round and employed someone to chop down all the olive trees. So in the previous clip you might have seen our neighbour's trees, which are really nice olive trees. And then what we've got are these kind of bushy things, and what they've done is they've chopped down all the trees basically at the base and sold the wood. But that now means the trees are not anywhere near as productive as they should be, and it's something we're going to have to learn how to do, and hopefully we can do relatively quickly. He thinks it was 3-4 years ago that the trees were chopped, and a lot of them do have many shoots on. Some of them have olives, but the vast majority this year have not had olives, so there's some heavy pruning that needs going on.
Despite our romantic dreams and rose-tinted ideals being pulled into a rather harsher reality, we took a deep breath and began a 5-year journey that has finally led us to our first harvest with our own preserved table olives and the most delicious liquid gold oil we could have ever dreamed of.
Well, we just woke up to the second night on the land, and as you can see this morning, it's not quite the same blue sky experience this morning. It's it's foggy and really damp in the air, so we've got a little fire going in the cottage where the fireplace is, and hopefully it clears up when the sun comes over the mountain. So we'll take you down some of the bancals so you can see the state of them. They're very overgrown and need a lot of maintenance and work. So from this distance, and what you can see on the drone footage, the bancals look, fairly flat and not too overgrown or anything like that. And then when you get there, it tends to look like this. A lot of chopped down brush, tall grassland, and then lots of bushes and shrubs that are, coming up for waist height.
We spent the coming months clearing the land by day and camping in near freezing temperatures at night. After some research on different pruning methods, we began our rescue mission by starting to prune and shape a few of the very overgrown olive trees.
This is the size of some of the branches that have been left behind when the trees were originally kind of chopped down and pruned, I guess. They're not really pruned. So this is everywhere around each of the bancals, and what we're trying to do is just clear a path and put them in piles. Some of these areas are so overgrown that you can't even see that there's big branches, and then when you try to pull them, you realise that things like that are just hidden underneath your feet. It's the end of the first full day on the land. Our bodies are already aching, pretty knackered. And this little guy has been absolutely knackered after running around on the land all day. So we're going to go to bed, get some sleep, and we'll see you in the morning.
And that's the size that the olive trees used to be before they were cut down 3-4 years ago. The way olives grow is they send side shoots out from the base, and normally you have to trim these back, but because the tree's been cut, you've got these side shoots coming out from the side of the trunk, and this is how it's grown into a bush. So what we're trying to do is to keep the 3 to 4 strongest stems to continue on for the next year, and then we will trim these back even further in the coming years and with a little more experience. Our neighbours came around yesterday just to say hello, but while he was here I took the opportunity for them to assess some of the work we'd done on the olive trees, and kindly he gave us a few pointers. He says we're right to keep some of the main stems, and what we've been aiming for is a bit like an apple tree. We're trying to make a donut, so a hole in the middle to let the light in, and then greenery on the outside. But what he said also is that you kind of don't want anything too tall, and if you have too many things all together, it's too crowded. So he was like counting, say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's like, it's too much. Take it down to 2, 3 maximum. So the idea is that you just thin out these pieces. And you don't want it too tall, because in the end you're going to have to reach for the olives at some point. And so if you bring that down, you're then down to 3, 4 units in that section. So you get more light in, you should get more fruit as well in the end. We're at the end of another day, having pruned some olive trees, and we've made quite good progress. We've gone across three olive trees today. It takes a lot longer than you think. So this is the bancal we've been doing. So here's the one we did this morning, and then we've done this one over here. Okay, sat quietly. And so here's the second one. We've not trimmed down the branches yet, but again you can see the size of the trunks that are there. And then this is down to 3, 6, 7. So this we'll be taken down a bit further, I imagine. And then here's the last one of the day. This one was a bit of a beast. It had a lot of brush around it, and then a lot of side shoots that needed to come out, and we've taken this one down to the 5. So it's been a long day, and yes, we think we need a chipper because we've got a lot of material.
With a bit of practice, and having got a bit more confident and into the swing of things of pruning the trees, we bought a chipper and started to turn the cut branches into a carbon-rich mulch so that we could slowly try to improve the soil around the land.
The skies are bright, I see orange light. I want you to know that I love you so. And I feel like gold, and I love you so. I'm gonna be alright, I've been caught in time. I want you to know that I love you so.
Little by little, we expanded the area of trees that we tended to around the land.
So you can see it's still a bit chaos in here. What we found last year was that the ones that we left more stems up seem to do better, so that's what we've been doing. I'm trying to keep trunks that kind of look like they could form into a good tree one day, so with branching that's kind of halfway up, that then can form out to be a tree at some point. but I've left quite a few of them because I don't want to shock the tree too much. So this is the original tree. Here's my foot for size comparison. So it was a pretty big one, but then look at the size of that hole as well, right in the middle. Often there is a hole, but I've never seen one this big. So this is a rake. Let's see how far down it goes. So to there. So, I don't know, good 70, 80 centimetres deep. I won't be putting my leg down it to see how deep it goes or if it's stable, but yeah, don't really know why the middle of that's fallen out. If you do, leave a comment. But all the shoots that come up seem to come around the edge of the trunk. They never seem to come out the centre. I mean, one or two shoots seem to, but they're never as strong as the ones on the edge. I guess that's to do with the light.
We began to use the older, drier branches as firewood at home, at least to gain some use from our old damaged olive trees, since they still weren't producing a proper yield of olives yet. We've been speaking a lot to friends and neighbours recently about the olive harvests over the past few years, and 2023 and 2024 were particularly poor years, it seems. Not only here in our region in the south of Catalonia, but throughout Spain and most of Europe actually. There were some really unusual seasonal patterns, there were storms, there was harsh summers with no rain, heavy droughts, and it really just affected the growth of the olives. Either they were completely knocking the flowers off the trees before they even had a chance to get pollinated, or the trees were actually getting starved of the water and things that they needed to grow once the fruit was forming. You may have actually noticed that the price of oil skyrocketed in 2023 and 2024 and into this year as well. And that's a direct result of those poor growing conditions. Basically, it meant there was a really high demand, a really small yield, and that just pushed up the prices. But thankfully, it looks like 2025 is going to be a lot more positive. The weather conditions are predicted to be a bit more stable this year and hopefully are going to give the olives the right conditions and the right amount of water that they actually need to be able to put on that fruit. So we really, really hope that this might be the year that we get olives too.
I've just nipped up to the land to do a bit of watering and turn on the irrigation and check on the veg and things before we go away for a weekend. And I just came to check the olive trees, and I am so excited to see actual olives 5 years later. We actually have olives sitting on these trees. Admittedly, they are teeny tiny at the moment, and so much can still go wrong, depending on things like how much rain we get through the summer, or what the weather's like, whether it's incredibly scorchingly hot, or whether there's a massive downfall that actually knocks them all off the trees. There are still plenty of things that can turn this into another catastrophe. However, right now I am so excited to actually see olives on these trees. That feels like a massive success after 5 years of trying to bring them back to life.
By the end of the summer, after a very harsh hot period and a trip away for 6 weeks to visit family in the UK, we arrived back to the land to see that many of our olive trees were full of bright green fruit. But they were dried out and shriveled and just generally looked very thirsty, to say the least. We weren't sure if it was too late to save them, but we took some advice from our neighbour, who's been farming olives all of his life, and we flood watered as many of the trees as we could.
So these are the olives this year. We've just come back after our summer trip, so they've had whatever rainfall came. They are looking a little wrinkly, so our neighbour said try and give them about 100 litres each out of his cisterna. especially if they've got a hole in the centre of the trunk like this one does. Irrigate or water directly into there and try and give them 100 litres. So going to find the trees that look promising for the olives and give them a good water. So to start off with, I'm just doing this one that's next to the veg patch. To time it through the hose for 100 litres, I've got a 12.5 litre bucket. So I timed that, 1 minute to fill this bucket, 8 minutes for 100 litres. So I've just got a timer on, and then I'll see how far this hose stretches, and then I'll get on the big one with the pump, because that hose is a little longer and a little bit faster.
We'd had such a big drought this year that about 3 weeks ago, Danny came to the land and tried to give as much water as possible to each of the olive trees that were close by the cisterna and we could reach by pump and hose. And then about a week and a half ago, we had a big downpour of rain, which has filled our cisterna right back up to the top and seems to have plumped up the olives. So this year, we are really hopeful that we're going to get a harvest. And that would be the first harvest that we've ever had since purchasing this piece of land 5 years ago. Hopefully it's not too windy and you can hear me okay. We've come up to the land today just to have a look at the olives and see whether we're ready for picking. So it's the last week of October and everything's looking pretty good. The rain that we've had recently has definitely plumped everything up and made everything much riper. We still have got quite a few that are green and some that are turning kind of purpley, and then some that are already black and pretty much ready to drop off the trees. Some of them have started falling already, so we think it's time for us to do our first harvest. We're going to try and collect 400 kilos if possible, because that will give us enough to do our own press. And yeah, we're just going to see how we get on. It's the first time we've ever done it, so we don't know how quickly we'll be able to harvest, but we're going to give it our best shot. We've got a little bit of help this week. We've got my dad and my little brother here to stay, so hopefully with 4 sets of hands that should be a little bit easier. And we should be able to harvest a bit quicker. The trees are looking great, I have to say. All the hard work that we have been putting in over the last couple of years to get these pruned and shaped and ready for a harvest has worked, which is amazing. We're just starting today with a bit of prep, so clearing beneath the trees. These are obviously some of the ones that we've pruned in the past, so you can see the big old original stump and then the new growth, and we chose to keep these 3 main stems, which looks like it was a good choice because these have all now got olives this year, which is great. So yeah, we're just cutting some of the new growth from underneath and just stacking that up out of the way for now. We will either burn that and use it as fertilizer, or we'll chip it down and put it down as mulch, so that will get used at another date. But yeah, we're just trying to get the trees ready so that we can get the nets underneath and then harvest the olives much more easily.
5 years later, after first beginning work to rescue this abandoned olive grove, our first harvest day was finally here, and with help from my dad and my little brother, we got stuck right in.
So this morning we're just trying to get an idea of the best way to do it, how to lay out all the nets and everything, best way to pull the little rakes through, and also get an estimation of how many we'll need to collect in order to take them to our press if we want our own press of oil. So we need 400 kilos if we want to do that. We've just done half of this tree so far, probably, I don't know, half an hour, maybe 20 minutes or so, and that's given us 1/2 of a trug, and in there's 11 kilos. So if we don't do it all the way to the top and we still got to be able to carry it, that'll give us about 20 kilos per bucket. So we're going to need about 20 buckets. So I'm guessing around about 20 trees. Just back from the first day of harvest, and we did probably 2 or 3 hours today total. I managed to get 3 trees done. Obviously, because these trees are being brought back from the dead, having all been cut down, there aren't a lot on some of the trees. So one of the trees was about 24 kilos, one of them was only 7, and then the one that we just did now was about 12.5 kilos. So we're bringing in like 42, 43 kilos for the day, which is pretty good for the first day of our first ever harvest, we think, when we only spent a couple of hours doing it. So we're just gonna keep going at it for the next few days and see how much we can get. Day number 2, and we're starting on some of the bigger trees, which means that a lot of the olives are actually a lot higher up than where we can reach. So rather than trying to struggle with the tree and fighting against it, what we're going to do is kind of hit 2 birds with 1 stone, and we're going to prune the trees at the same time as harvesting the olive. So we'll cut down the branches and then harvest the olives at ground level. We've seen quite a lot of people do that, and it seems to be a bit easier and a bit faster. And then obviously the branches that we want to keep, if there are olives on those ones, then we'll obviously harvest those at tree level. But we'll see how that goes for today. Unfortunately, it started raining, so we're rained off for the day because it's not good to harvest the olives while it rains, because then when you take them to the press and they're wet, the weight isn't the same and the quality is not the same, and it can affect the oil. So we can't take wet olives. So we're going to stop for today. We only managed to get 4 trees done, and they weren't particularly heavy yield trees, so I think we've probably come away with about 30 kilos today. So really not a lot at all. What we're learning is that just doing it by hand is incredibly slow, and we might look to see if we can buy one of the machines. It's called a tickler, which is one of the things that kind of has like fingers on it, and you put them into the branches and then shake the olives off down onto the nets. Hopefully that would be much faster than doing it by hand. We should be able to probably get 100-200 kilos in a day rather than like 50 or even less. So yeah, I think we'll stop it there for today, unfortunately.
So we did 2 mornings of manual harvesting and we got 65 kilos, something like that, for maybe 6-8 hours work. So we realised why people have the machines for it, because it's obviously a lot quicker. Kate's dad generously bought us one of these Iron Hill ones that we've seen. They seem to be selling out quickly in the shops, so we're hoping that's a good sign. And so yeah, that's what we're going to do today, is have a go with the olive harvester.
Using the battery powered tickler is a lot faster, but we have a couple of kind of issues with our land. One of them is that because the trees were cut down and now it's many branches coming out instead of one main stem, it's much more difficult to get the nets underneath. So it's taking a lot more prep time to actually set out all the nets and everything, and quite a lot ping out over the edge, or you lose them down the middle, so you're not really getting 100% of what you're knocking off the tree. So that's just something we've got to contend with our trees, unfortunately. And what we've learned is that actually clearing underneath the trees before placing the nets is probably quite a good idea, but we haven't really got time for doing that. So we're not going to do it this time, probably we'll do it next harvest, but that's something else we've learnt. The clearer the area underneath, the easier it is to lay the nets and to actually get at underneath the olive trees to be able to get at all of the different levels of olives as they're growing through the tree, and the faster you can harvest. But getting them down onto the nets makes it so much easier, because then you can just scoop them together and pour them into the bucket. So it's definitely much faster with the machine, but we are doubtful that we're going to get anywhere close to the 400 kilos that we would need for our own press. Good morning, we're back up on the land nice and early today to start on some more picking. So today's going to be the final day that we pick towards this press. We don't know if there'll be any more that we can take in the future. We need to hunt around some of the other trees. But today we're going to focus on trying to make up to 150 kilos, which yes, we know is far away from the 400 that we had originally thought we might be able to get or hoped that we might be able to get. But this is just our first year, and so we're just going to do what we can. Luckily, we have found somebody who has built their own press and is able to do a 150 kilo minimum for us. He is happy for us to drop them off tomorrow, and so we're just going to try and get the last like 35-40 kilos today and see if we can get up to that 150 minimum. So that would be great. It's cold press oil too, so it's like the best quality that we could possibly get from our olives, which would be amazing. Even if we only get 15 or 20 litres, that would be incredible for our first harvest. So we're still very, very happy with the fact that hopefully we will end this week with some oil. Isabel is currently asleep in the car, so we're just going to get on with it. That's it, you pull them off. You can just do them one at a time if you want, sweetie. Okay. Wow, thank you. Last batch. Just under half a truck.
Nice.
Time for the final weigh-in of the day. Hopefully we've hit the 150 kilos. So what did we get earlier? 17
earlier. And lunchtime 16.2. And this afternoon 12.8. It's just one of the suitcase weighing scales that we've decided to use. Works out quite well just for being able to pick up a trug and get an idea of the weight we're getting. It's yeah, well, it's a quite useless thing, isn't it? But I'm quite happy we've used it for this.
Just done a quick tot up of the weigh-ins that we've done along the way, and it comes to 162.5 kilos. That's not taking away the weight of the trucks that they were in when we were weighing them, so they're about 1 kilo each, and there were 12 weigh-ins, so that takes us to 150 kilos, 0.5. So
it's half kilo of twigs, that's it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's more than half a kilo of twigs, but it means that we can take it to the press. So we are really, really happy. That was a pretty hefty few days, and I think next time it'd probably be helpful if I wasn't like 5 months pregnant whilst trying to do it. But I think we've given it our all, and we're really happy that we can go to the press now.
And we've done it with a toddler.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's been very good.
And it was the first ever time we've done it.
So after 5 days of harvesting by hand, Navigating the difficult terrain and getting as much as we could from our recovering trees, it was time to take our precious cargo to the press.
So in principle, we've got Farga and I think Moranday, we got told by the neighbour. The translation I can find is Maruda, and the Farga are the small pointy ones, and the Moranday are the larger ones. So that is 150 kilos of olives. It's been a very difficult couple of days, and I have a lot of respect for the old guys that are out here doing it every year or every other year, because it's not easy work, and I don't think I'll be complaining about the price of olive oil again now I know what's gone into getting hold of them. Obviously you've got a big industrial machine to go over the lines, it's a lot easier, but the guys that are out here growing their own and collecting their own, it's tough going, but I'm very happy I've done it. Let's go see what we get in the mill.
It's thick.
It's quite smooth though, it's not as spicy as I expected it to be. It's quite spicy, isn't it?
Yeah, the aftertaste is. A bit like peppery. Danny, we made oil.
We did make oil. Tasty oil.
So that's our story. 5 years in the making. In our next video, we're going to go a bit more into the process of actually pressing the oil, how much it cost, how much oil did we actually bring home from that 150 kilos, and what we actually learnt from our first harvest. So if you're interested in watching that video, then if you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing to our channel and click the little notification bell and it'll let you know when we put our next video out. But for now, we wanted to say a huge thank you to some very special people who have been following our journey right the way from the beginning when it first started 5 years ago. There are lots of you out there who've stuck around for a really long time, and we're so thankful to you all. So to all of our subscribers, to everyone who watches our videos, to people who support us on Patreon, thank you so much for following our journey. We hope that you've enjoyed watching this edit right from the beginning all the way through to finally getting some olive oil. I can't tell you how good it feels to actually finally have some of our own olive oil in our house from our own trees after all this hard work. I'm not sure that we ever thought it was going to happen, to be honest. So if you've enjoyed watching our battle against the elements and against nature to bring these trees back into life, then do give us a big thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, drop us a comment or a word of encouragement, and for now we're going to leave it here and we'll see you on the next one.